Hi. Hello, everybody. How's it going? I'm just turning myself up in my ears so I can hear myself a little bit better. Let me know how I sound. I can make some alterations if needs be. I have ginger ale. I have some Milanos, a quiet stream snack. Oh, I'm very quiet apparently. Okay, I can fix that. Okay, how about this? Did that make any kind of an improvement? Am I coming in too hot now? I don't know if this is any better. Tewit in the chat says, I too am carrying Milanos. We don't have Milanos in the UK, and I discovered them a couple of trips ago coming to America. I say discovered as though I have claimed Milanos. I discovered them for myself. They're cool as hell. Oh, this is now much better apparently. Oh, that's great. Okay, so welcome to part 2 of the Dwarf Fortress kind of starter stream series that I'm running, in which I try and break down the procedurally generated community building game Dwarf Fortress into something a little bit more manageable. Dwarf Fortress is kind of overwhelming, and I know that anything that I make is also going to be kind of overwhelming, and that's fine. I just want it to be a little bit less overwhelming. In the last stream, we went over the basics of how to download Dwarf Fortress, set up tile sets, put together various bits and pieces, and then, playing as our dwarves, we dug into the mountain and set up some sort of goods stockpiles and meeting rooms, and what else did we do? We made a farm. We made a little farm growing mushrooms. We'll get back to that today. But I'm going to kind of begin by giving a tour of the fortress that we have made. Couple of things. I'm going to say this at the top of each stream, kind of two big sort of points at the beginning of each stream. One, I am a complete Dwarf Fortress amateur. I've learned the minimum amount necessary to have fun with the game. So you're almost certainly going to see me make weird mistakes, or more likely just kind of like pipeline choices that veterans of the game wouldn't necessarily make. Unless I'm really screwing something up, please just let me sit in my poorly made bed. As I get more familiar with the game, I'll obviously encounter things that I'll want to do a bit differently. But for now, my focus is kind of on just try to explain the basics, the basic basics, as clearly as I possibly can. Thing number 2, for veterans of the game, could we try and make sure that we're all kind of working at a similar complexity level? I said this last time and people were super good about it. But if I'm trying to explain how to start a farm, please don't be in the chat being like, and here's how you write books to make a library. I'm so excited to write books to make a library, and I'm like very excited to get there, but now is not necessarily the time for that. Today we are going to be focusing on drink, a thing dwarves need a great deal, and industry, a thing dwarves do. So let's load up Dwarf Fortress. We're going to do this like we did last time, in that we are going to first I'm going to hide all of the text on the screen, and then we're going to load up the no, don't go down there. There we go. I don't know why it went down there for some reason. There we go. So we're going to load up the Lazy Noob Pack, which is kind of the launcher that we're using. And we're not going to make any changes this time. We're kind of doing okay. For information on how to settle this stuff up, the previous stream is available in the archive, and it will be going up on YouTube soon. If you're watching this on YouTube, it will have already gone up on YouTube. So, we're going to hit Play Dwarf Fortress, and there's going to be some probably loud guitar music, which I'm going to try and turn down as quickly as I can. Let's turn that off. Let's turn this on. Nope. I don't want that. I want... Firstly, I don't want it to run in full screen. Okay, here we go. Let me just get Dwarf Fortress on screen. Hey, nice. And let me make sure that we're turned down okay in there. Yeah, I think the guitar should actually be alright. Oh, the guitar is fine. Guitar is way chiller than I thought it was going to be. I'm just going to push the door to, and then I will be right back. Wow, I hit my microphone, I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. So, where you load Dwarf Fortress once you start again is using the up and down arrow keys. You select to continue playing, and then hit enter. And then hit enter on the Ganduchim, which is our fortress. Your fortress will be called something different. We're all good there. And Dwarf Fortress is just going to take a second to load. Okay, so when the game starts, it is going to start paused. If it doesn't start paused for whatever reason, hit space to pause the game. We are looking at the kind of first floor of our fortress, so one level under the ground, or one level under from where we started. In the bottom of the screen, we can see our meeting room where our 7 dwarves are hanging out with what looks like 2 dogs. Those are those kind of like white things, and 1 cat. We have another cat, but I'm not sure where it is. Oh, it's up there in the stockpile. So the second cat is showing us around the stockpile, which we have a bunch of goods and various things that we brought with us in. We carried all those goods off the wagon and we put them in the stockpile, so they will be nice and safe. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see our farm. The squares that have little gradient kind of areas in it are squares that have been planted, and the sort of more textured ones, the ones that look like they have wood grain on, are fallow right now because we don't have the seeds to plant the farm the way we want it to be. That is a plump helmet farm, which is a kind of mushroom that just grows underground. I'm going to use the arrow keys to move around. In the center of the screen right now, you can see a little red X in the middle of that square room. This is our staircase that leads us up. Oh, wow, I hit my elbow on the table. It leads us up out of the fortress, and it leads us down to the level below here. Then we have a little corridor that I've dug out to the left. That was a little exploratory tunnel that I dug, hoping to put a farm there, but you can't farm on stone, so we had to kind of go off in this direction. A couple of things that I don't know that we talked about in the last stream, but I think it would be good to start mentioning now. You can see that 2 of the dwarves are flashing with a capital Z on them. This indicates that they're asleep right now. Dwarves will sleep anywhere. I've seen dwarves sleeping in the stockpile, I've seen some sleeping in the farm. They don't love sleeping outside, but I think if they had to, they would. It's not the end of the world. It's not like, you know, in The Sims when your sim doesn't have a bed and they just get really, really upset. Sort of so upset that you have to stop whatever you were doing and build them a bed. The dwarves aren't quite like that. They do get a little grumpy. In fact, if in a bit we check the dwarves' moods, like we did last time. Actually, let's do that in a second. We will see that the dwarves are slightly grumpy about several things. They're probably grumpy about not being able... They're grumpy about some great stuff. They're probably grumpy about not being able to sleep in a bed, which is fine. They are probably grumpy about not being able to sit down when they eat, because right now they're just going into the stockpile, grabbing a handful of food, and eating it there and then. I would imagine they're also grumpy about not really having mugs to drink out of, or Maybe we have 1 or 2 mugs, but not enough for all the dwarves. I don't super know this, but I keep getting, in the early stages of fortresses, dwarves be grumpy about that, which conjures this great image of a dwarf going like, dinner time now, walking into the stockpile, taking a handful of food, and then like cupping a hand to get a little bit of dwarven wine, and being like, I'm grumpy about this, but it's not the end of the world. Dwarf Fortress uses flashing letters on characters and situations when it wants to tell us things about them. Here it just means that they're sleeping. I'm going to push K so I can show you some stuff in a little more detail. K is the cursor we use, remember, to just look at stuff under the cursor. And it's this little gold-colored or yellow-colored thing here. You'll have noticed that there's like little lumps on the floor, and these are just chunks of rock that our dwarves have been mining. Dwarves are pretty clean miners. I guess they're just good at mining. But they do leave debris behind. They obviously leave a lot more debris behind digging through stone than they do, say, through clay. There's no debris down here. I'm using the arrow keys to move this around, and I'm holding down shift to move quicker. Now, we can see that there's gabbro on the floor here, and there's some more here. And we got citrines here. Remember the rough citrines that we discovered, which will help us make gems later. This blue-colored wall is a rough-hewn kimberlite wall, which is cool. But in case you're wondering about this kind of stone that's lying on the floor, and we've got a little bit in our meeting room, it doesn't super bother the dwarves. The dwarves are kind of chill about it, but it bothers me a lot when I'm playing, because I'm like, I want it to look nice and clean, and there's just bits of stone all over the place. Fear not. There is a kind of shortcutty way we can get rid of that stone just by hiding it from our screen, but during this stream I'm going to show a way that we can actually make that stone useful and get it all sorted out. Obviously we could tell our dwarves just to like haul it to a stone stockpile, but that would just make a big weird stockpile full of stone. What we're going to do is make a kind of small weird stockpile, but we'll get to that in a bit. I'm going to push escape to get out of the K mode, the look mode, and then I'm going to push shift and left pointy bracket to go up a level. This is our entrance corridor. You can see our clay stairs there. And out here we have a water buffalo and a camel. They're in a little pasture. I'm just checking the chat. Okay, cool. There's a pasture. Down here is our little refuse kind of zone, our kind of refuse area. And over here we have some, like, look at these little purple flowers. We didn't notice these in the last stream because it was snowing. So let's go into K and see what these little purple flowers are. We have pea plants, pea leaves, and pea flowers. That's cool. We have garlic plants, garlic leaves, and garlic flowers. Also cool. Pea plants. These are leeks. These are garlic plants. These are peas. These are hide roots. More hide roots around here. What are these little grey kind of blobs? Ah, boulders. Okay, sure. They are gabbro boulders. Okay. What are these little flowers down here? Lentils. Gosh, so we got some like nice little, we got some little sort of market garden-y sort of stuff growing here, that's important to know. We're going to come back to it later. This is the wagon, which is useless now the dwarves have arrived. So in future we'll set a little project going on that wagon, but let's not worry about that right now. I think what we would like to worry about is maybe getting the dwarves going on some of these nice little plants. I'm going down a Z level with shift and right pointy bracket. So we've got plump helmets growing in our farm, and those will be good. But we need to start thinking about a sort of a more consistent food stockpile for our fortress. The dwarves will eat plump helmets fine, and they also brought a lot of food with them when they came. Oh my god, are those kittens? Wait a second. I have to push K. What is this? Under the... It looks like a tiny little creature, but it's not showing anything in the... Maybe it's a rat that the cat is going to catch. I'm not sure. We'll see. Yeah, Wealthy Outfox says might be vermin. I think it might be vermin. Cats are pretty good at hunting the vermin in the stockpile. Over here we have our we have a stray cat. Here I'm pushing enter to look at it. This is a cat with chocolate paws, chocolate rear paws, and white front paws, and mahogany eyes, and it's gonna get the rats for us. What's important to do though is get a kind of secondary food source going. Just some stuff that we can put in barrels and put in stockpiles and have be kind of there for us in case our plump helmets aren't enough or don't go super well. While we're here, I want to introduce a new menu, which is the status menu that we get to by first pushing escape to get out of the look view, and then we're going to push Z. Now, this tells us a little bit about what we've got going in our fortress, and features, it shows us, you know, who we have really working, what skills we have available. And it also features one of my favorite comedy moments in Dwarf Fortress, which is that the dwarves have some idea of what they've got in the fortress, but it's not a specific idea. So we like have 100 food, we know we have 10 meat, we have 10 fish, 10 plant, 30 seeds, 50 drink. The dwarves aren't like, dwarves aren't super sure. That's fine. We're gonna fix that unsureness probably in the next stream. But for now, all we need to know is that we can kind of go here to get a rough idea of how much food or drink or seeds we have available to us right now. So I'm gonna push escape to get out of this, and then I'm gonna go back up to the surface with shift left pointy bracket. And I think we should just... Oh my god, look at this. What is this? Are these all gabbro boulders? I'm going to push K to look. Oh, this is a brook, but it's like... Either there's an error and it just looks all stony, or the brook has been like clogged with stone. This has got to be a bug. I mean, it might not be a bug actually. Because, like, it all... This might be where the brook starts. I'm not sure. I'll check the chat to see if smarter people than me have worked it out. See what these 7s are over here as well. What are these 7s? It says downward slope. Something strange is going on, Dwarf Fortress. Oh, apparently the brook is frozen. It's a weird graphical error on Stone Sense that frozen brooks will look like that. That's wonderful. I really like that. We're going to snap back to the wagon by pressing F1 or FN-F1 on some stuff. I'm going to push escape to get out of look. And then we're going to start telling these dwarves to kind of gather the plants that we can see. They'll gather some edible stuff. They will gather some seeds if they can, and they'll bring it down into our stockpile. So we're going to do that by going into designations by pressing lowercase d. And then we're going to push P for gather plants. Now we're going to kind of want to like demarcate an area that contains the plants we want the dwarves to gather. So let's go up here and push enter to kind of set our start point. And then let's come down to about... Are there plants over here? No. Down to about here. And push enter again. And you'll see that the plants that the dwarves are going to get have turned dark. So we're going to be getting a lot of hide bushes. I'm pushing escape and K to look. And we're going to get some millet plants and some barley and some leeks. You know, this is like... you know, we're not getting all the stuff here. We're not getting these like pea plants and things. But we are getting, you know, a bunch of stuff. And maybe once those plants grow a little more, we'll be able to harvest them. I'm going to push escape here. And then I'm going to unpause the game and send the dwarves out. So now dwarves are going to come out and start gathering these plants. There they go. The next thing we're going to want to do is we are going to want to start getting a building material other than stone for our fortress. And we're going to start by building a stockpile, because we're going to want to chop some trees down, and we're going to want the woodcutter to kind of haul the logs to a stockpile, a wood stockpile, without, either just leaving them on the ground or dragging them all the way down to our main stockpile. But I don't think our main stockpile accepts wood actually right now, so we can check that in a second. Let's get the stockpile in first. This doesn't need to be a... Look at the brook. That's amazing. A squirrel or something. I'm pausing the game and pushing K. Who are you? You're a wombat. Wow, I'm gonna push enter. It's just a stocky wombat from the from the mountains and the woodlands. Okay, let's push escape to get out here and not get distracted. We're going to make a stockpile the same way we did last time. We're going to back out to our kind of main screen. We're going to push P for stockpiles. And then we're just going to set up a pretty standard wood stockpile with W. And I'm going to want to chop the trees down. You see these kind of amber-colored circles? These are tree trunks. So let's make a little stockpile here by pushing enter to start. Let's make it 3 by 4 and push enter again, and we'll see a little stockpile has been kind of laid out. And then while we're on this menu, let's just start chopping down some trees. We're going to do this in the designations menu, much like we designated the dwarves to gather plants, or in the last stream, mine out stone. So we're going to push D for designations. And then we're going to push T for chop down trees. We don't want the dwarves to chop down a lot of trees right now. Not because, I mean, deforestation is a thing you can straight up do in this game. We'd have to work real hard to do that. We'd have to be pretty single-minded at this point in the game. The reason I'm not going to go like hog wild and designate 1 million trees is that if we do that, our woodcutter dwarf will just be like, well, I guess I'm on trees now for eternity. And with 7 dwarves, we don't want to lose 1 dwarf to just chopping down trees. So, let's go up here. And we're going to do this just like we set the dwarves gathering plants or set the dwarves to be mining. We're just going to kind of designate an area that we want the dwarves to be chopping in. And we're going to make sure we're on T for chop down trees. Hit enter. And we're going to kind of mark out the area. I think it's a good idea to get maybe 4 trees chopped down at this point. It doesn't matter that the area is going to include our wood stockpile. Really all we're telling the game to do right now is chop down any trees that are in the area that we've just designated. If we push enter, we will see that these trees have been highlighted for down chopping. We can push escape to get out here, and we can push resume. And I think it's probably safe for us to just hang out up here and kind of watch the dwarves get to work on that. This dwarf here has been diligently gathering. Oh, that's a bee. Look, I'm pushing K. Do you see up here this round red circle? This is our colony of honeybees, which is incredible. And down here we have a honeybee worker. That's great. I'm going to push escape to get out, and I'm going to push resume to get back to it. We might see a dwarf start to come up here. There's a car outside. We might see a dwarf start to come up here to start chopping down the trees. Let's look at the job list by pushing J to see if any dwarves have kind of started on this job yet. Right, so the person who is gathering plants is our woodcutter. So they're going to kind of finish gathering plants. But in the meantime, oh, here comes a cat. We can kind of adjust that a little. We can set someone else to be gathering plants and get this person to be chopping down trees. So let's pause the game and let's go back into the Lazy Noob pack. And let's go to Utilities and fire up Dwarf Therapist. I'm just getting a weird error. Oh, I see. I clicked Play Dwarf Fortress instead, and that would have loaded the game, which we which we don't want. So let's just double click on Dwarf Therapist. and it should load up. And when it loads up, you should see something that looks like this. Okay, so we went through Dwarf Therapist a little in the last stream, and if you want to see kind of the basics of how that works, we can go over that in the last stream. You can go and check that. What I will say is that real quick, we can see the dwarves' jobs up here. Dwarves that have a job kind of enabled for them to do, if they've been told, oh, I can do this or that. It's highlighted with like a blue gradient circle. Dwarves with skills in jobs have a number in their circle. 0 is okay. 0 is better than no number, I believe. But this 4 is really is a good number. They can go much higher than this, but 4 is pretty good for what we've got going. And here on the left, you can see what the dwarves are doing. You can see that all of these bastards are idling, whereas Adil Thobatek, our woodcutter, is out gathering plants as well. She's out there gathering plants. Oh, a small irritating thing I will say about Dwarf Therapist is that I can see kind of tooltips when I hover my mouse over things, which tells me useful things about the dwarves. None of it is like crucial, and you will see if you're following along yourself exactly what you're missing. It's not a lot, but I do just need to keep reminding myself that I can see tooltips and you can't. While we're here, in one of these tooltips that you can't see, I can tell you, for example, that Adil Thobatek felt annoyed after sleeping in the dirt, euphoric due to inebriation, fondness talking / visiting with a friend, annoyed after having had a drink without using a goblet, cup, or mug, annoyed at the lack of chairs, anger after getting into an argument twice, and annoyed when caught in a snowstorm. So none of this is the... I can also tell you that Adil Thobatek sees, quote, the whole pursuit of art as silly. Hates snails. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to... plant gathering. Adil Thobatek is as good at plant gathering as she is at woodcutting. More or less. Let's see. Who else do we have who is kind of good at woodcutting? It might be Zaneg. Zaneg, do you want to be... Oh no, it might be Bear. Okay, Bear, who is also our miner, but there's no mining to be done right now. Let's get you on woodcutting. This is going to kind of temporarily disable them from mining, but that's fine. We can put them back on mining if there's mining to be done, and we almost certainly will. So let's push this button here to kind of commit these changes to Dwarf Fortress. And those changes have now been committed, so we can turn this off and go back into Dwarf Fortress. My phone just buzzed on my desk, and I'm going to make sure that it's not something that I need to make sure I'm doing right now instead of playing Dwarf Fortress. No, it's just a bunch of notifications saying people have followed me on Twitch, and a text from KB saying they're coming home. They've been at a talk, which is cool. So let's get back into Dwarf Fortress, and this person should continue to gather, and another dwarf should come up and start chopping down those trees. So let's hit resume.